Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on how savvy educators are solving Australia's skills gap and achieving positive development outcomes for young people in society. So I will introduce myself. I am the head of partnerships here at My Careers. And today I'm going to be asking a series of questions to our founder and CEO, Fergus Creese. Fergus, say hello.
Howdy, everyone.
So at the heart of Fergus's work, his commitment is the quality of education and better enabling individuals to chart their own learning towards rewarding and adaptable futures. So I suppose we'll get the ball rolling and I'll start throwing these questions at you, Fergus, then. So Fergus, what are the challenges around the current and future job market and skill shortages in Australia?
Yeah, wonderful, Matthew. So it's an increasingly popular topic which is happening in the market at the moment, particularly around careers, but also for educators, schools and industry as well, where we're looking at such a broad range of different and diverse educational journeys here in Australia and of course globally too. But focusing in Australia, there's so many different emerging options for individuals and to maintain that pace as a industry with advice can be quite difficult as we're moving so quickly. And we've got pretty good access at the moment to cognitive assessments, but to really get individuals to drive their way through a workflow and a process to really get them to understand more about themselves before they make decisions is a really critical piece. So that's why it's been wonderful for the new world of technology coming through, for individuals to bridge their way through to rewarding and adaptable futures a lot easier than they have in the past. And we'll discuss that through the next points in the webinar.
Interesting. So how can students better identify the early entry opportunities through in-demand careers, for example?
Yeah, so what we're looking at is for an individual to look at all the disparate systems in the market at the moment. But what we really want is to apply the knowledge from each of those disparate systems. So it might be an interest test, a persona quiz, values, or educational calculator, but make meaning in them speaking to each step in the journey while they're making these big decisions. We have quite a few challenges in the market at the moment, from individuals choosing between medicine and law to generational unemployment. So now's the time where it's really impressive to see how many new opportunities that students can bridge themselves through to. A really great example is if we're looking at the skills gaps at the moment, mining, healthcare, there's so many opportunities which enables people to go straight through into a rewarding career really quickly. So we're able to solve a lot of these challenges quite easily now.
It's really interesting. Look, I must admit, it's exciting to see so many opportunities for students out there at the moment, as early as year 9 in training and upskilling, preparing them for the workforce. And, you know, we see a lot of that from our day to day. And it's also really brilliant to see so many educators starting to integrate micro-credentialing and to achieve positive outcome for young people in society. So Fergus, for those people that don't know much about micro-credentialing, I'm guessing a lot of people will, but there'll be some that might not. How do you see micro-credentialing transforming education and improving job prospects for the students and the young people of today?
Well, as I said before, we've got pretty good access to cognitive assessments, but if we're looking for a full flourishing index of each learner, I think we need to build a more holistic mixture of students' growth and progress over time. We can do this by bringing the unstructured data sets and personal attributes of individuals, human behaviour, and individual trait data. And once we do that, we really need to give it meaning towards individuals' decisions.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really interesting path forward because those personal characteristics, they're highly correlated with student outcomes. If we use an example of conscientiousness, we know that that's highly correlated to student achievement on cognitive tests. So we're really interested as a company in strengths, interests, passions, students' abilities, and correlating this with other people. Their levels of empathy is a really important one, and their ability to follow and complete a task these are all really highly correlated with these achievements on cognitive. Sorry, these are really highly connected with pieces of data that help build a holistic profile of individuals.
Yeah, interesting. It's who's developing these frameworks? So obviously it's quite becoming a bit of a topic here in Australia, but also globally. Who are the people behind this? Where is micro-credentialing coming from?
Yeah, when we're looking at micro-credentialing, you wouldn't want to create your own framework yourself. There's parties that have been around for quite a while that are really focusing on creating these micro-credential frameworks that have been connected in with industry and further education. So they're really being certified as a student collects their, let's call it a digital badge or an attribute over their school journey and beyond. We're starting to see these being recognised post-school, which is a brilliant thing. We're getting students that are getting free education. Certain subjects, they'll get a certain subject at university, which is great.
Yep.
We've been working with Dr. Rick van der Swan, and he is a neuroscience and a co-founder of the Human Capability Intelligence Center. And when he's looking at micro-credentials, he's really focusing on like applied outcomes. So what can a learner profile actually do for the individual and how they're validated as well. But our favorite ones in the market is the Human Capability Standards and the NESA framework, which we're happy to share with everyone after this. So they've got a really great source to really start to unpick what micro-credentials are and how they're applied for students.
Yeah, fantastic. So what are the benefits? What benefits can students receive if a school is using micro-credentials or and how is this recognised in careers and further education? Can you just tie that all together for us?
I love to use the example of LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a platform which you build a profile on yourself in the business world, or for anyone wanting to market themselves for job applications or careers. But what's really interesting is you can input any data into LinkedIn, whether it's true or false, to create this profile. And micro-credentialing is a really great problem solver for creating true data, which can be signed off by not only the individual, but then checked by the school or anyone that's created that digital badge to prove that it's a certified profile. Which is really brilliant to see because it's a really trustworthy source, and this can be stored in a way where you collect these over time. It's slightly gamified in school, but then it's really recognized by big companies, big further educational institutions, and certainly now employers too. Traditionally, the resume was a brilliant way to apply for a job, and it still is. Most people still get their jobs through a resume. But having more certification around that, we think is going to be a really positive attribute in the future and now.
It's super interesting. I find it's a really exciting time to be a young person coming through society and getting those validations of all those different characteristics that sometimes were forgotten back in the past. But so obviously we've spoken about early identification of careers and micro-credentialing and to bridge their way through further education and being recognized by those careers. How are school leaders and careers teams achieving continuous insights across their students and their student cohorts quickly as well as accurately?
Yeah, this is really a data question here. And I love the way that data is being aggregated now, but data is only good if we're using it in the right way. And when we're looking at data, it makes it a lot easier to manage whole large cohorts of students, whether there's people in the webinar now with year levels as small as 10, right up to 500 students in a year level, which we've certainly seen across a few schools. It's really difficult to get across that many people in a cohort in a semester. So what we're really trying to achieve here is enabling platforms to get students to do the work first and put them through a funnel, which is a really exciting, quick way for them to produce information and data for then the school leaders, the career advisors, the principal or industry to get the right information they need to make the best decisions and have the most meaningful conversations as well. Even for parents, we see this as a brilliant piece because identifying and understanding your son or daughter in a way which you might not have known before, but then connecting that to an executable plan which they've created through a workflow really enables this to get them the outcome that that individual needs. So it's a really student-driven outcome, which is polished by the educators or the parents or the mentors or the teachers or the principal. And school leaders as well have the opportunity to then, based off this data, create student-driven curriculum. So it's a really student-centered focus. And I think this is the way that we've certainly been heading recently. And it really gives the opportunity for the students to have some more power around how they're driving their own learning outcomes throughout their further educational journeys. And certainly with technology, this is an important thing because they can see so much information, but it needs to be managed by the educators at the end. So this creates a really easy way to do that.
Yeah, great. And so, okay, so what are the benefits of a student building out their own profile, say over time, rather than just at a point of time? So for coming back and building that profile into a system, making sure that they do it over different points of the year, for example, or different points over 3 different years.
Firstly, we need stunning technology. Now, this is a big challenge for people starting educational technology companies because most students, I think 95% of students only use 3 applications on their phone daily.
Yeah.
So they might have a few other ones that come in and out when they need them. But the 3 pieces of software that they use are so beautifully designed and they've been created in a way that they're so engaging that they have very high standards when it comes to the technology. So when we look at anything that doesn't have the digital investment into it, they just don't use it. So that's the unfortunate part about often integrating new pieces of tech is if they don't speak their language, not trying to be cool, but speak their language in a way of digital technology of the look that they're used to and the user experience and the workflow. So where the buttons are positioned, how they press them, how they swipe them, the engagement goes down considerably. So that's probably one of the most important parts to connecting with students. And obviously the digital real estate on a phone is very small. So if it needs to be used on a computer for more information, that's a critical piece too, for them to be able to access the right information quickly over short 5-minute periods. That really engages students. So once we've solved those challenges, we need to give the relevant advice and the relevant content to students at the exact time that they need it. Particularly around careers, unfortunately, it's a space where students often leave it a little bit too late and they're thinking about so many other different things that they have on their agendas. To get them to get really interested and connected with the careers, we need to use this digital tech, but then connect it in at each really important time of their school journey in an automated system. So once they come through, they will be promoted to use it when it's at a critical part of their journey. And when we look at a few of the key attributes here of the 21st century skills, the foundational literacies, the competencies, and the character qualities, these pieces need to be integrated within these systems. So students can really start to understand some of these. I love the character qualities. If they're understanding things like persistence and grit and social and cultural awareness, these are pieces that once they recognize how they connect in with themselves and their personal attributes and their interests and their values and their co-curricular activities, and now also with their micro-credentialing badges, it really gives and empowers individuals to understand their value as a human. And when we can get students to understand their value, that's a really special thing. And when we can do that over huge cohorts of students really quickly, that's even better.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we want is students leaving school and getting through the first 1, 2, 3 years of further education and still not identifying their value as a human being. And this is a really exciting piece that data is now playing within the industry, is we're connecting with students without any external influence at the start. They're understanding their value, their purpose, their passions, their skills, and it's very easily connected in with the vast range of different careers on the market.
Yeah.
So they can be adaptable. And I love this word adaptable because they'll have so many different careers. So if they get into one and they want to have a change, they can then pull out these personal characteristics that they've connected with along their journey and the profile that they've developed over 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, and slot in with any other sort of career that connects in with those attributes.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting. It's really interesting to hear you talk about how students are being able to lead their own journey towards a purposeful pathway through that meaningful data that you were just touching on before. Can you speak to us a little bit more about that and give us a bit and expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the really strong points I think here is when a student's connecting in with a career, what's happening at the moment is we push a kid through school and a student through school, and then they have to make a decision on whether they're going through vocational certificate education or whether they're going to undergraduate, so university, or whether they're taking a gap year or the few other different options that they have. And what we're finding, there's still a 1 in 5 dropout rate in the first year of university. So it still shows that there's a mismatch between that.
Yeah.
And again, this data connectivity is a really critical piece. So if we look at all the leading job providers, so SEEK, Grad Australia, these are all bodies which are creating live job opportunities. And these are the sources of information where we're finding all the different opportunities which are out there, from internships, graduate positions, apprenticeships. But we need to take it a few steps back to make sure that not only the employer are getting the right people, but the students are bridging their way through into have a meaningful and rewarding career that they want to stay in. So it's really creating a win-win for both parties. Firstly, the school, because they've done their job, they've connected them in with the right further education or the right certificate or the right career. The student's happy because they love their work, and the employer's happy because they get to keep someone right through as long as possible. And this hasn't existed in the past. I know my personal journey, I went through brilliant love for commerce, the art of buying and selling. Then I went to university in Melbourne and studied a Bachelor of Commerce, Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And I was the bowling ball that had the bumpers up and it hit every bumper on the way down. And it took me 6 years to get the strike. And thankfully I got the strike at the end.
You got there in the end, yes.
Absolutely. But it really, this was the positive outcome for me, because it really made me start this company and connect in to really help young Australians through to these futures. But it left me with a very large HECS bill. And we also want to solve that challenge there as well.
Interesting. So obviously there's the student side of the data that we just talked about. What about the schools? How are the schools utilizing the data?
The schools is a really interesting one, because a lot of schools, we work with a vast range of schools across Australia and New Zealand and now Northern America as well. And we get to meet all different types of schools. And this is the most awesome job for us, because we get to fly in and out and check out the different environments across Australia. And people use data in different ways. And what we really love to see is data being used in the right way by schools. So really easy to use, as we're talking about technology needs to be. It's simplified. It's very easy for a school to access the right information on individuals' personal characteristics, how they're evolving, how they're changing year on year, the inbuilt traits and the traits that change over time of humans, students. And being able to use that as a central point of information to really use as a hub of where the information is coming over to make decisions in a school. So which library books are being purchased? How curriculum's being developed? Who's coming in to speak at the school to invigorate students on why they're on their educational journey? We're using this data in a way where all these decisions, no matter which person it is in the school, they can make that decision based off student advocacy. That's a really exciting thing because students have so much access to go and do a course at Harvard online, or now go and do a course at Haileybury. So it's I think a key competitive advantage to have student advocacy through data from the leadership team leading those outcomes.
It's really interesting, isn't it, that schools can use this data to make their student cohort, the population, more targeted, and making sure that everyone has that voice that you did touch on. So, but we've come across a lot of challenges where the industry is moving really quickly, and it's so difficult to maintain pace. I don't know anyone really that can maintain that pace. And with all the relevant and emerging opportunities in the market, how can leaders give the relevant advice for these rapid shifts?
And it's happening so quickly. I mean, my mother's an art teacher, and it's just so interesting to see how the points that she's been teaching over her lifetime, she's at her peak, and it's taken her 38 years to get there. And now the teaching style is just so incredible that she's able to really capture students around creativity, which is a fantastic part of anyone's journey. The same as entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship flows across every single subject, which is a good thing to see. But the reason why I'm talking about this is because when we look at these digital shifts, we're starting to bring out all different types of characteristics of individuals across someone that's highly mathematically minded. How can they bring that creativity in? And we're using every teacher across every subject to then drive these data-driven outcomes through to connect in with these rapid shifts in industry and all the new careers which are available. So I'll give an example of it. If we look at engineering, there are so many different types of engineers. So we're able to connect students in that could be mathematically minded but more artistic to go into a certain engineering career rather than just doing the high-speed rail networks in Sydney. So it really gives more meaning to that individual once we've captured that data. So it's a sophisticated way of using data to connect in with the outcomes of industry. And where we get the data from is leading companies, like I said before, like Seek. We're starting to understand all the different characteristics of those careers because they're such a data-driven company. It enables us to get that data and then connect it in with the student data that they've developed over time. And if they can do it from year 7 right through to year 12, wow, we've got some pretty incredible data to ensure that we're connecting them in with the right future. So that could just never be done by a human. This is the positive attributes of technology. Now, a human always needs to be there. I'm a big advocate for humans. I'm happy for them to stick around. And we're finding new ways to use humans in this process as well. So to understand that data and to make the final decisions, I think always needs to come from a school environment. And that's where educators, savvy educators, are really playing a part in how to understand this data and how to use it correctly and how to support students to direct their own outcomes with a little bit of support along the way.
All right. So lastly, before we just jump into a Q&A, I've just got one last question. That's just how students, parents and teachers can view the trends in the job market for now and also the future. Could you touch on that for me?
Probably the first part here would be looking at the insights from the labour job market. I mean, there's just such brilliant data. They've just updated their website, which we can share with everyone as well. You've probably all seen it though. And it really gives the opportunity to see from a more simplistic piece of data of which careers are starting to leave, fade away, and which ones are really starting to boom. But when we're looking at the skills gaps here, we want to make sure that we're not just putting people into that career just because there's a gap there. So you can imagine putting a kid into the mining industry that has no idea that it's manual labor in a certain part. Not all parts are manual labor, but a certain pathway just because it's giving a $10,000 signing bonus and it's paying $120,000 a year. So this also gives that individual more opportunities to find where they really fit. So this is an important part when we're looking at the labour job market skills gap, is that we're still focusing on what a student is actually skillful at and really playing on those skills and interests.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And I think that's the last question I've got for you. So I just want to say thank you for that. I'm lucky enough to work with you very closely with you. So you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the career industry. And your knowledge from micro-credentialing through to the skills gap is just, it's amazing. It blows me away every day. So I think we've got some questions from the audience that I am just getting through now. Do you mind if I think we've got about 5 or 6 or here. Is that all right I think we've got enough time for 6 questions here. So the first question we've got is, how is MyCareer supporting the career space?
Yeah. Look, it's we certainly love being integrated within this space. It's really exciting. It was a really tough space to enter because it was often really tough on budgets. A lot of career advisors are a 0.2 career advisor and a maths teacher. It was quite a difficult space to enter. And how we've really supported that is we're not only looking at just supporting students, but also schools, libraries, so public and academic libraries as well. But what we have really focused on is creating a really comprehensive workflow for individuals to be able to work through themselves and then connect themselves into all the vast range of further educational and career opportunities here in Australia. So our main focus is the equality of education, the equity of education, and to ensure that we can provide a product which works from all demographics across Australia and globally, and has connectivity worldwide as well.
Okay, another question we've got. Are students really engaging with this long term?
To engage students, we not only had to create and invest in really high-end technology, but we also have really worked across social media platforms. The TikTok's a really good example. It can be used in good ways and it could be used in negative ways. We do day in the life videos, 20-second snippets of what it's actually like to be in that career, from young individuals right through until people that have been in the career a long time, and how to get in there as well. So where all the live opportunities are, how to submit your applications, how to get in, what further education you need, what upskilling you need. And we're getting, I think, 60,000 people through in the ages of 13 to 18 in Australia. So this is how we're engaging with students, as well as connecting in with all the most important parts across the year to get them when they're available.
Yeah. And so another one is, how do you maintain pace with the industry?
Maintaining pace in the industry is really through partnerships. So connecting in with the leading partners across Australia and the globe to ensure we've got relevant data, but it's up to date. So we keep everything really clean. It's really up to date. So it's a central repository of information with the smart learning algorithm. So people don't have to do any research. They can go through a process and get all the outcomes and an executable plan that they need.
Okay, so I've got one on micro-credentialing here. Which micro-credentialing framework are you using?
Yeah, I think we had a little chat about that just before. So what we've been working on a few different micro-credentialing frameworks because we can plug in different options. So this is a great thing about this software. It's not out of a box. It enables you to be able to put different frameworks, but we really want to look at a global framework, which is recognized globally. And the human capability standards and the NESA framework are the two that we closely work with.
Okay. Could we trial the product or get an information pack? Probably I can answer that one, I think. So after this, everyone, I will be sending through trials to everyone that's come along or signed up to the webinar. as well as be touching base with you as well to see if you'd like to have a demonstration from Fergus and I, and we can run you through the platform. But also, we can also take you through the way we're supporting other schools in the industry and their career departments. So that'll be something coming from me in probably this afternoon or tomorrow. Finally, is this an American product? I noticed that it's a .com, not .com.au.
I'd love to say it's a Tasmanian product because that's where I was born, but it is, Tasmania seems to be part of Australia still. So it is certainly an Australian product, but we have just recently launched in New Zealand, as I said. Northern America is coming early next year, January, February, and then UK, and then we'll look at a few different Asian countries as well too. But certainly it's awesome to see an Australian technology product in the careers space on the global stage. So it's really cool to see, because often we buy tech out of the US, and I love when Australians can really get something moving, because technology is pretty hard to get up and running.
Yeah, 100%. It's great that we're an Australian business supporting Australian tech developers as well, and it's a hard slog out there. So anyway, that's it. That's all the questions we've got for today and the webinar. So thank you so much again, Fergus. Like I said, you've got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to careers. And to everyone out there, if you have any other further questions, I will actually contact you guys directly afterwards with your trial, as well as a bit of an information pack. But we'll leave it from there. Thanks again, Fergus, and speak to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.